Hidden information, randomization, and chance are great equalizers in the board gaming world, but you won't find any of those things here in Nimbus. Nimbus is a game of skill, tactics, and strategy. Hi, my name is Morgan from DICEonaHILL. Now this is going to be a paid overview of the game Nimbus, supported by Neural Forge, the producer of this game. Now what we're going to be doing here is discussing how you play this game, what are some interesting things about this game, and whether or not this game is going to be the right fit for you. Without further ado, let's dive right into the abstract game known as Nimbus. The aim of the game is quite simple. Players will alternate taking turns, moving their pieces on the board. Happen to land on an opponent's piece, and you'll remove it from the game. In order to win the game, you'll either need to wipe out your opponent's Nimbus, indicated by this star here, or take out all their other pieces. All the game pieces in Nimbus have 4 different colored corners. These all represent different types of elements available to these game pieces. And the different types of elements have different ways of moving around the board. Let's take a look at them now. All right, let's take a look at how these pieces move in a game of Nimbus. Like I would have mentioned earlier, each piece here has an element on top of it, and this changes how these particular pieces move. And to help us out with these movements, because a lot of them are quite abstract and difficult to learn initially, we have these templates to help us out, and there is one for each different type of element. And this is going to be super duper helpful when it comes to figuring out where we can go with these pieces. So let's have a look here at this first one here. This is the fire element. So this one can move 4 spaces away in a direct line. And when I say a direct line, I'm talking about where its faces are pointing at in terms of the pyramid here. So for instance, I could be moving in this direction here. If I did so, I'd be stopping on this space and taking out that piece there, right? Alternatively, if I get tricky and swivel this around, I could also move in this direction also. I'll have to swivel it back this way again, and I could also move this way. Of course, I can't go over my pieces, so my movement would be stopped here. I could also move in this direction. I could also, sometimes it gets a bit fiddly. I could move over here, or I could instead move into this position here. Important to note, I don't have to go all the way. I can choose to stop before the end of the 4 steps. So it's up to 4 spaces away in a straight line. All right, let's have a look at the water element now. Now the water element I think is quite powerful in the sense that it has unlimited movement, in the sense that it can go from one side of the board to the other. However, there is a big restriction. It can only move through its corners. So I've got a water element piece right here. Right now, that's my Nimbus. And if I take a look at this template only goes 4 spaces away, but I can actually, if this piece wasn't here, let's say that piece was gone, I could actually jump right into my opponent's Nimbus right there and end that game, right? So there's no limit to how far you can move, but I do want to mention something. Notice how the orientation of my triangle changes as I move through this line. As that happens, the orientation will change, which means the direction of my corners will change. So let's say I end my movement in this spot, okay? So from now on, if I were to move with this piece later on, instead, I'd be going in this different direction entirely. So the movement of blue changes quite a bit depending on where those corners are pointing. So this can be a plus and a negative. Sometimes you are put in this situation where you have to move your water elemental piece, but then it gets sort of put in a position where then it can't really be effective. Like if you've taken it out of danger and then maybe later on you can't really use it effectively to take out other pieces. So something to note, So there's sort of a give and take with the water element. They've got great range, but again, you have to be careful where you end up with that movement because it could very much hinder your future placements. All right, the next one we're going to talk about right here is this electric purple one. Now, this is one of the first pieces that actually completes its movement by jumping around. So this one here depicts where you can jump to. And one thing that I use to help me remember this movement is that you want to jump into a triangle that's adjacent. So it doesn't necessarily have to be these two. I could place it here and it could be either of these two as well. Now, see how the orientation of all these triangles is the same. This is a good way to remember where you can move to, right? So I could move to any of these spaces right here. Whoops, not that one, right? So any of those spaces is fine, okay? And another thing to note is to complete a movement with the electricity, the purple one, you can jump up to 2 spaces away. So I could move to here, and then if I so wish, I could jump again, perhaps over to here. So this is quite a good piece at covering quite a number of different areas. Just be mindful that with these spaces, with the reverse orientation, with the pointers going this way, okay, you're not going to be very effective on those spaces because you cannot jump to them. You are not going to be able to fit there. So you'll have to figure out a way to sort of move it into a different position or maybe change the element so that you can get better use out of that. And finally, and this is probably the most tricky one to learn. So I've saved the trickiest for last, right? And that is the nature earth looking symbol. It's got a leaf and it's green. Now the template here is an umbrella looking thing, okay? And let me give you a tip to help you remember how this one moves. You take the face of any side of this pyramid. You skip the next line, all right? So you skip this row and then you can move into 3 spots over that line. So I'll show you how that works. So I can put this here and I can move into any of those spaces there. Or if I want that my face is there, I could skip this one and move to any 3 there. So the template shows that as well. I could jump and I could hit anywhere there. So I could hit that piece if I so desire, right? I cannot move in this direction because that would take me off the board. So I cannot do that. All right, so that is all the movements for Nimbus. Now that we've got an understanding of how this game plays and how these pieces move around the board, what does this game do different to other games? Isn't this just like chess? Well, I've left out one important rule for just now, and it's a spicy one. Whenever you move one of your pieces, you can take any one of your other pieces and change its orientation, effectively changing the way it moves so you can adapt your strategies on the fly. This is massive. Imagine a game of chess where you could change your rook into a bishop or a knight. It's massive. And this really opens up what you can do with this game. Another question you might have is that if my pieces are so flexible and can change their orientations, why might I ever risk my Nimbus piece? Well, the game's going to answer that too. The Nimbus piece is the only piece that after moving can change its own orientation. So you can use your Nimbus as a huge beat stick, jumping into the battles and wiping out other pieces. To keep things fresh, you've also got variable setups. You can try out the red fire setup for a more aggressive game. The water setup is designed to get an early surround on your opponent. And finally, you've got your purple setup where you can really throw off your opponents. Now, I've had a chance to play quite a few games of Nimbus now, and I thought this is a good opportunity to now talk to you about some of the things that I've noticed that might help you make an informed decision when it comes to buying this game. The first thing I want to talk about is the component quality. Now, I don't know if you can see this on the screen or whether this is doing it justice. The components here are lovely. They're really nice. Each of these pyramids is hand painted. Inside each of these little corners, there are emblems representing all the different elements. And there has been gold paint put in those sections to make them really pop out. This game board has been varnished and looks really, really nice on the table as well. Another thing to note, that this game also comes with the 3D printed templates that help you understand the movement of all the pieces here. Now, I have been told also that the publisher is aiming to upgrade those components to make them stainless steel. So again, making this a really classy looking game. Now, enough about the components. How does this game actually play? Well, the first thing I want to talk to you about is how brain-burny this game is. The first couple plays you even have, you're going to be sitting there going, oh man, where do I go? What do I do? You're going to be trying to think about all the different possibilities of movements that your opponent's going to be making. How do you protect your pieces? How do I make sure I can take care of theirs? How do I revenge kill if he happens to jump onto one of my pieces? And there's just so many questions that run through your head. This game is all about thinking 2 to 3 steps ahead of your opponent, trying to figure out what they are trying to do and how you're going to play around that. I should also note that this is the type of game that, unlike chess and other games like that, where when you feel like you've got a foothold and you've gotten a few of your opponent's pieces off the board, in a lot of those games you often feel like the game's over, there's no coming back. In this game, I had one example where I felt that way. I was taking out my opponent's pieces and I had a big lead and I was feeling really good about myself. It took one mistake and that completely turned on me and I lost that game. And I couldn't believe that my opponent had that much of a comeback and turned things around completely. Next, let's talk about the learning curve. Now, I did say it was quite awkward to learn those movements of those different types of elements. And I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna take you a couple games before you get used to it. Games run about half an hour to 45 minutes each. So it's not gonna take you long before you get there, but it is worth mentioning. If you only happen to pull this game out every once in a while, then perhaps you're not gonna feel as confident and comfortable moving those pieces around. And this is the type of game that really does benefit from repeated plays, particularly with the same group of people. If you're playing different people all the time, well, your skills are going to be going up, whilst everyone else you play with is going to come into this brand new fresh and they're going to feel crushed by you, because this is definitely a skill intensive game. There is no mitigation here. This is all about strategy and tactics. And the biggest barrier to this game is understanding how those pieces move around and anticipating where they can go. So if you don't have a regular playing partner or group, then this might be a really tricky one to get played. Now, who would I recommend this game to? Now, if this is an abstract strategy game, and there is a lot of thinkiness. There is no theme in this game, apart from the nice shiny elements that you can see on the board, but really, this isn't abstract. There is no strong theme here, no thematic ties, right? So this is purely for someone who likes that strategy. Now, this would be a perfect gift for someone who already likes heavy, strong strategy games. If you have a mate who likes chess, they would love this game. This just takes chess and puts it on its head, a completely different way to play an abstract strategy sort of game. And I think they'd really get a kick out of it. But with that being said, I really don't think this is everyone's type of game. There are a lot of people who are, like I said, more into those thematic type of games, and they're not going to really get pulled into this one, as this is all about thinking, planning ahead. Where can I move? Where is my opponent going to move? All those types of things. So if those things interest you, then this is the perfect game for you. Well, that was the overview of Nimbus. So if you're interested in this game, make sure you check out the description below. I have a link to the Etsy where you can purchase this game for yourself if you are interested. If you found this video at all helpful and you would like to subscribe to this channel, it would mean the world to me and helping me grow and making sure that other people can see this content as well. Well, thanks guys. Until next time, catch you later.